Product management is one of the most popular roles out there in the job market, especially in tech. For one, it's often characterized as being the CEO of a product, which is pretty cool. Now, some may argue with the finer details of that comparison, but there are some similarities. But the second reason it's popular is that it commands a high salary. You make more money, and that's generally a pretty good thing. Now, a common figure that's thrown out is to expect a $100,000 a year salary or higher. In this video, I'll unpack whether that is actually the case and what you really need to know about product manager salaries so that you can set the right expectation, either higher or maybe even lower. So, let's talk about it. Now, I've spent the majority of my career as a product manager for different product lines at a major hardware technology company. So what I'm about to share is based on my personal experience and observations, but also based on what I know from my network of people both in and outside of the company that are also product managers. And I'll also enlist a little bit of help from a nice handy website called Glassdoor. Let's start off by talking about what influences the salary of a product manager. Number one is location. Now, this influences salary for just about any role out there, but the good news is this might actually be less of a factor moving forward into the future. And that's because at this point in time, especially in the last 2 years, remote work has become more and more mainstream. But for many companies still, the logic follows that if you, for example, live in the Bay Area or New York City here in the US, it's a higher cost of living for those cities and your salary would be commensurate with that cost of living. Second is industry. You can find product manager roles across many different companies and across many different industries. Some industries, by the nature of their business, operate with very minimal profit margins. Think of industries or companies that manufacture commodity products. On the other hand, there are other industries and other companies that operate with significant profit margins. You might think of service-based industries or software. For example, a company that builds software products has to just build it once and then maintain it over the life cycle of that product. And throughout the product life cycle, they are capturing that recurring revenue. But the overhead to maintain that product from that point forward is relatively low compared to maybe other industries with other products. So for them, the profit margins are quite high, which in turn means that on average, salaries can tend to be a little bit more generous. And to reinforce the comparison once more, if you think about it compared to a hardware-based company where there's physical product, there's a supply chain involved, and there's a lot of other risks that are introduced into the equation that could potentially have a negative impact on profit, which in turn means that there's less of a margin cushion, which of course means generally lower salaries compared to their services or software-based counterparts. Third is company size. Not surprisingly, smaller startup companies simply don't have the same resources that a larger, more established company has to offer the same salaries. Usually, what can make those opportunities more attractive to people is not so much the salary, but the equity, or at least the opportunity for equity in that company. And should the company succeed and you have equity, well, let's just say that you'll be able to afford a few more lattes at Starbucks during the day. But again, there's risk in that approach because there's no guarantee that the company will be successful in the long term. A larger company, by comparison, is more established, has the track record, has the resources to offer you a very competitive salary. Now, I would say those are the top 3 factors. There are minor ones, I would imagine, beyond those, but those are the 3 that you'll really want to focus on as you explore opportunities in product management. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about the $100,000 per year salary. Is that a realistic expectation? And the answer is yes, on average, this is a realistic expectation. And you'll see here I'm scrolling through Glassdoor, which I alluded to earlier, which is a really good reference. It's all user-generated content from people having worked at these companies, uploading information about their job title and salaries and many other benefits. So you get a variety of different roles at different companies along with the approximate salary ranges. And as you can see, everything that I'm looking at here is all well above 6 figures. But part of the reason that this is a realistic salary is that a lot of product management roles tend to be concentrated or plentiful in tech companies. And tech companies, on average, pay pretty well. Now that said, there is a lot of competition for product management roles. And you might ask yourself, who am I competing with? Oftentimes it's people with prior product management experience, or you may be competing with MBA graduates for whom product manager roles tend to be very popular, or folks that have just completed a master's in engineering of one form or another, or computer science. So there's a lot of interest for product manager roles, all for the reasons that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So while the $100,000 a year plus salary is a realistic expectation, the challenge is actually in landing the role. But we also can't discount the fact that there are product manager roles that are below the 100K mark. They can start in the 60K to 70K range for certain industries or company sizes. And if you're wanting to get into product management for the first time, I would not shy away from these roles. Although they might be more entry-level product management roles, they can give you the experience necessary to launch your career into more product management roles that pay better. Apart from that, there are a handful of ways to get into product management. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, do make sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got some future videos planned around exactly that topic. And for more details on the product management role itself, do make sure to check out this next video.